In this video, I'm going to show you some of my donations to animal charities over the years, talk a little bit about the charities, and work out what I could have bought if I'd kept the cash. Let's dive in. Before we look at the numbers, I want to explain two things. First, why I've decided to give so much money away, and secondly, why I've decided to tell the world about it on YouTube. So first, why donate? And why donate to animal charities specifically? We live in a really unique time in history where, for maybe the first time, any individual has the power to save hundreds or thousands of lives. This opportunity didn't exist 50 years ago, and it might not exist 50 years from now. Firstly, factory farming itself has only been around since about the 1960s. While a lot of people imagine that it's this inevitable thing that is, was, and always will be, it's only been 60 years. And it might not be another 60 years if we play our cards right. We still have the opportunity to make this whole misadventure in factory farming just a shameful blip in humanity's moral history. And factory farming has only been around for about 60 years, but the tools to effectively fight it have been around for 10 or 20 years, maybe less. Effective animal advocacy is for the first time identifying the best ways that individuals can help animals, and our average of a few different cost-effectiveness estimates puts the average number of animals saved per dollar at 4.9. 20 cents to save an animal from a lifetime in a factory farm. With that value for money on the table, the question isn't why would you give so much to animal charities? It's why wouldn't you? So the second thing is why flex about it? You might be thinking, if you want to give all your money to charity, that's fair enough, you do you, but don't brag about it, that's cringe. Well, you'd be wrong. I think we absolutely should flex about our donations. I am pro-donation flexing. If we want people in society to do more of something, we have to give them permission to celebrate and be celebrated when the thing is done. We need to congratulate each other's donations, push each other to donate more, and create a culture where those of us who want to defend animals put our money where our mouth is. So, have I been putting my money where my mouth is? I took the Giving What We Can pledge to donate at least 10% of my income to effective charities back in 2015. At that time I was still a student, but I started donating when I got my first PhD stipend payment in 2016. Since then I've had 4 different regular monthly donations, as well as at least a couple of organisations where I've given one-off donations. So first we've got New Harvest. This is a non-profit focused on advancing cellular agriculture. They contribute to the research ecosystem on cultivated meat and other animal product alternatives. This relates to future food which might displace animal products, so you could think of this as sort of the high-risk portion of my donation portfolio. I've been giving New Harvest $50 per month, which is about £40, since November 2016. As of right now, that's 103 months, and I've given them $5,150. That's about £4,120. Second, we've got the Centre for Effective Altruism. Effective altruism is a whole method of identifying the best and most effective ways to achieve altruistic goals. That includes identifying the most impactful career paths, identifying the most effective charities that you can give to, and the most impactful actions you can take to make the world a better place. They were getting £40 a month between 2016 and 2023. At 81 months, that comes out to a total of £3,240. That's $4,050. Third, we've got Giving What We Can. This is the organisation that promotes the 10% pledge, whereby you can pledge 10% of your income to the most effective charities. This is something that Sam Harris promotes, it's something that I do personally, and it's something that I would strongly recommend. If you commit to making regular monthly donations to effective animal charities, even if the rest of that whole month sucked for you, you know that you saved hundreds of animals just by default. Giving What We Can's Animal Welfare Fund has been my main donation since 2021. They've been getting £190 a month now for 40 months, meaning that I've given them £7,600, which is about $9,500. Fourth, we've got Animal Charity Evaluators. This organisation does what it says on the tin. They basically audit a bunch of different animal non-profits to identify those which are doing the most impactful and evidence-based work. The charities that they rate the highest typically get a lot of funding as a result, so it really incentivises charities in the animal space to approach their activism in a way which is evidence-based and can be measured and improved. Animal charity evaluators used to be my main donation, but then they changed their policy so that you could no longer get research grants if you're also a donor, which makes sense. And that's when I moved it over to Giving What We Can. But Animal Charity Evaluators was getting $263 a month for 29 months between 2019 and 2021. They got a total of $7,627, which is £6,101.60. So, those are all my regular donations, past and present. I've also had a few one-off donations, as I mentioned, a few to the Good Food Institute, which promotes alternative proteins. They've had $500 at Christmas 3 times. And also to Faunalytics, who do a bunch of research related to animal advocacy topics. I've chucked them 20 quid, I think 3 times, for a total of £60, or about $75. Honestly, there probably are some other one-offs that I'm forgetting about, but I think this is enough for now. Okay, let's take a breath. That was a lot. Was anybody keeping count? Well, I make the running total of all of my donations to animal charities so far in 2025 £22,321.60, or $27,902 US. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, until I made this video, I had never really sat down and worked out exactly the total of everything I've given to animal charities, and this was quite a bit more than I thought. £22,000, that's a lot of money. This is not a metaphor, and it's not some abstracted tax or inflation thing where I've kind of lost money but didn't barely notice. We're talking about direct debits here. When I give £190 a month to the Giving What We Can Animal Welfare Fund, that goes out of my bank account and then I have £190 less than I had yesterday. Don't get me wrong, I'm a pretty privileged person and I'm not putting myself on the breadline by doing this. But it doesn't come for free either. This is my actual money that I'm choosing to give away instead of buying nice stuff. I think sometimes young people can be a little bit cynical about donations to charity. A lot of people have this idea that it's a tax write-off or some sort of scam. This is just a misunderstanding. You can reduce your tax liability by giving to charity, but only because you've now got less money to tax. You're still going to be worse off overall than if you had just kept the money and paid some portion of it in tax. To make it super clear, I'm going to explore some of the things that I could buy if I had all the money back that I've given to animal charities over the years. First, partying. I've done my share of bougie partying over the years, but the bougiest was surprisingly here in Bristol. The host was some rich heir whose name I won't say, and he loved to ply you constantly with champagne. With a crate of 6 bottles of Moet coming in at £275, my £22,300 could have bought me 81 crates or 486 bottles. Going through a crate a week, I could have hosted a champagne party every week for about 18 months. Second, clothes. This is a fun one because it's very clearly an area where the sky's the limit. Clothing is an area where functionality maxes out at a pretty low price level, relatively speaking, but there's a ton of headroom for pure status value. This is clearest with watches. Here's my watch. It's a Burai, which I guess is either a cheap Chinese brand or possibly Amazon-owned brand. I'm not sure. I think it cost me about 30 quid. And the interesting thing is it tells the time exactly as precisely as a Rolex Daytona, which cost £22,500. Pre-owned, of course. I asked Perplexity, which is like ChatGPT with references, to help me design an outrageously expensive men's outfit for £22,300. And, like a snooty sales assistant, Perplexity commented that while £22,300 could purchase a single bespoke suit with minimal accessories, the truly outrageous items remain out of reach. It actually suggested that I might like to put a 3.7% deposit towards a £600,000 diamond-encrusted suit. I think I'm good. And finally, cars. I'm actually in the market for a new car at the moment, so this one hurt the most. If I had back the £22,300 that I've given to animal charities over the years, I could have bought a 2022 electric Jaguar, or a 2010 Bentley Continental, or a 2006 Porsche 911, or a 1990 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur with only 33,000 miles. I could have bought a Rolls-Royce. I don't know that much about cars, but from what I gather, these are all nice cars. The point here is that the sky really is the limit with respect to what you can spend your money on, particularly when it comes to things which are more about status than functionality, like expensive cars, watches, and champagne. If you play the status game with respect to self-focused, hedonistic, status-enhancing purchases, you're always going to be playing a losing game. Let's say that I did have back that £22,300, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to treat myself to a nice Rolex, I'm going to buy that Rolex Daytona, boom, slap that on my wrist, I feel really great about myself for a little while. Now, when it comes to the status conferred by that watch, it's really only conferred by people who know about and notice nice watches. Frankly, most people I know probably wouldn't notice if I swapped out my Burai here for a Rolex, but those who would notice would probably be those who know about watches. Well then, how many of them might know that it was a 6-year-old pre-owned Rolex? They're big watch people, some of them probably would know that. At the very least, I couldn't be sure that they don't know that. And so already that status that I thought I had purchased starts feeling a little bit cheap. I mean, who wants a Rolex that's been on another man's wrist? This is the toxic version of the status game. Those status purchases will never be enough, because there will always be someone with a newer, more expensive watch than you. And now I finally understand why my dad, who could almost certainly buy himself a Rolex if he wanted to, will likely wear a classic digital Casio for the rest of his life. When I was making up that story about buying a pre-owned Rolex and then somebody noticing, I was feeling a mix of shame that somebody of higher status had noticed and called me out, but also shame that I would even care about playing this game to start with. When you play the status game with respect to an altruistic purpose that you genuinely care about, you don't feel any shame in doing excessively well in the game that you're playing. And you also don't feel any shame when you're defeated by somebody who's doing better than you. When you're playing the status game with respect to expensive watches and cars, you can never really win. But when you're playing the status game with respect to doing good in the world towards an altruistic purpose that you genuinely care about, you can never really lose. Since I started donating to animal charities almost a decade ago, I've donated around £22,300 or $27,902. If I had kept all of that money, right now I could be buying myself a Rolls Royce, or a Bentley, or a Porsche, or a Rolex. So do I regret giving it away? Not for a moment. None of these things that I could have bought would have given me even a fraction of 1% of the satisfaction that I get from knowing that I've helped so many animals. At 4.9 animals per dollar donated, my donations are likely to save over 100,000 animals. And I'm going to get to 1 million. I'll probably never own a Rolex or a Bentley, and I'm okay with that. I'm not playing the status game of who can have more. Why would I even want to, when I can play the game who can help more? This is Chris Bryant, thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, and join the Discord server over at dsc.gg/ChrisBryantPhD. Cheers.